The Forgotten Battalion, how 761 black soldiers held the line that saved Europe. Sound of tank engines roaring. The men nobody wanted. Camp Claiborne, Louisiana. November 1942. Temperature, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity, 95%. Second Lieutenant Samuel Iron Sam Washington stood at attention in the sweltering Louisiana heat, watching the latest group of recruits stumble off the transport trucks. They were black men from every corner of America, farmers from Mississippi, factory workers from Detroit, college students from Howard University, and sharecroppers' sons who'd never seen a tank before in their lives. The U.S. Army didn't want them. That much was clear. Listen up. Sam's voice cut through the humid air like a blade. I know what they told you. I know what you've heard. They said colored men can't operate complex machinery. They said we're not smart enough, not brave enough, not good enough to fight alongside white soldiers. The recruits stood silent, eyes forward, but Sam could see the weight they carried, years of discrimination, decades of being told they were less than, centuries of being denied the chance to prove themselves. Well, gentlemen, we're about to prove every single one of them wrong. If you're ready for the most incredible untold story of World War II, hit that subscribe button right now. This is history they didn't teach you in school. Sam Washington had been fighting his whole life, not on battlefields, but against a system designed to keep him down. Born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1918, he'd watched his father work himself to death in a steel mill for wages that would shame a decent man. He'd seen brilliant black students denied entry to universities. He'd experienced the daily humiliation of Jim Crow, separate water fountains, segregated restaurants, and constant reminders that America considered him a second-class citizen. But when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, something changed. America needed soldiers, needed them desperately. And despite every prejudice, despite every barrier, the U.S. Army began forming segregated black units. One of those units was the 761st Tank Battalion, the Black Panthers. The official designation was mundane, a medium tank battalion equipped with M4 Sherman tanks. But the reality was revolutionary. This would be the first black armored unit to see combat in World War II. If they succeeded, they'd open doors for thousands of black soldiers. If they failed, it would be used as evidence that segregation was justified. The pressure was immense. The stakes were existential. Staff Sergeant David "Prophet" Williams sat on his tank, cleaning his goggles for the third time that morning. At 24, he was one of the oldest men in the battalion and certainly the most educated, a graduate of Morehouse College with a degree in mechanical engineering. He could have worked in a factory, safe from combat. Instead, he'd volunteered. "You thinking about home, Prophet?" asked Corporal James "Ghost" Turner, a quiet kid from rural Georgia who moved with surprising grace for a man built like a linebacker. "Always," Prophet replied. "Thinking about my mama's face when I told her I was joining up. She cried for 3 days." He paused, looking at the tank, a 30-ton steel beast that would be their home, their weapon, and possibly their tomb. But she understood. Some things are bigger than fear. The biblical story Prophet remembered was from Joshua 1 verse 9, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." His grandmother had made him memorize that verse when he was 6 years old. Now, preparing for war, those words felt prophetic. Training was brutal. The 761st trained for 2 years, longer than most white tank battalions. Some said it was thorough preparation. Others suspected the army was stalling, reluctant to actually send black tankers into combat. But Lieutenant Colonel Paul Bates, their white commanding officer, was different. Bates believed in his men, truly believed. He pushed them harder than any unit in the army, not out of cruelty but out of respect. He knew they'd have to be twice as good to be considered half as capable. "Gentlemen," Bates said during one grueling training exercise, "when we go overseas, there will be people waiting for you to fail. Waiting for evidence that this experiment was a mistake. You will not give them that satisfaction. You will be the finest tank battalion in the European theater, or you'll answer to me. Understood? Yes, sir. The voice that answered was united, powerful, and determined. By October 1944, the 761st Tank Battalion was finally deemed ready for combat. They boarded ships for Europe, knowing they were carrying more than weapons and ammunition. They carried the hopes of millions of black Americans who wanted to serve their country with dignity and honor. As the ship crossed the Atlantic, Sam Washington gathered his crew in their cramped quarters. There were 5 men to a tank, a commander, gunner, loader, driver, and assistant driver. They ate together, slept in shifts, and would soon face death together. I want you to understand something, Sam said quietly. When we hit that beach, when we roll into combat, we're not just fighting Germans. We are fighting for respect. We are fighting to prove that a black man in America deserves every opportunity a white man has. Our grandfathers were slaves. Our fathers were sharecroppers. But he looked each man in the eye, we're going to be heroes. Omaha Beach, France. November 7, 1944. Temperature, 45 degrees Fahrenheit, overcast. The 761st Tank Battalion landed in France 5 months after D-Day. The beaches were secured, but Europe was still a raging battleground. As their Shermans rolled off the landing craft, Sam couldn't help but notice the stares from white soldiers. Some were curious. Some were skeptical. Some were openly hostile. Well, drawled a white sergeant from Texas, spitting tobacco juice near Sam's boots. Look what they sent us. You boys know which end of the tank the bullets come out of? Sam looked him dead in the eye. We are about to show you. Drop a like if you're rooting for these heroes, because what happens next will blow your mind. The 761st was assigned to General George S. Patton's Third Army, one of the most aggressive and demanding commanders in the European theater. Patton was a complicated man, brilliant, profane, and deeply racist. But he needed tanks, and the 761st was available. On November 8, 1944, Patton addressed the battalion before their first mission. Men, you're the first Negro tankers to ever fight in the American Army. I don't care what color you are as long as you go up there and kill those Kraut sons of bitches. Everyone has their eyes on you and is expecting great things from you. Don't let them down, and, damn you, don't let me down. It wasn't exactly an inspiring civil rights speech. But it was acknowledgement. They were going into combat. Their first mission was supporting the 26th Infantry Division in an assault on German positions near Moyenvich, France. The Germans had established defensive lines with artillery, machine guns, and veteran troops who'd been fighting for 5 years. Prophet Williams sat in the gunner's seat of his Sherman, hands steady on the controls despite the pounding of his heart. The radio crackled with chatter, coordinates, enemy positions, warnings about anti-tank guns. Tank 713, you're clear to advance. Good hunting. The Sherman lurched forward, tracks chewing through mud and grass. Through his gunsight, Prophet could see German positions, concrete bunkers, camouflaged gun emplacements, and movement that meant enemy soldiers. Gunner, target, bunker, 200 yards, Sam's voice was calm over the intercom. Identified, Prophet responded. Fire. The 75mm gun roared. The shell crossed the distance in a heartbeat and detonated against the bunker's wall. Concrete and bodies flew through the air. Target destroyed. Acquire next target. For 6 hours, the 761st fought their first battle. Shells crashed around them. Machine gun bullets pinged off armor. German anti-tank rounds screamed past, some so close the heat could be felt through the steel. When night finally fell, the 761st had accomplished their mission. They destroyed 15 German bunkers, knocked out 3 enemy tanks, and supported the infantry advance that captured the town. But victory came with a price. 2 tanks were destroyed. 8 men were dead. 13 were wounded. That night, as medics treated the wounded and chaplains said prayers over the dead, Sam Washington sat alone on his tank, hands shaking from adrenaline and grief. He'd commanded men into battle and watched some of them die. Ghost Turner found him there. The young corporal sat down without speaking, just offering silent companionship. "I keep thinking about their families," Sam finally said. "How do I write letters telling their mothers that their sons died proving a point?" "You tell them their sons died as heroes," Ghost replied quietly. "You tell them their sacrifice meant something." "Because it does, Lieutenant. It has too." Over the next 3 months, the 761st Tank Battalion fought through some of the most brutal combat of World War II. They battled in the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last desperate offensive. They fought in freezing temperatures, through snow and ice, against elite SS Panzer divisions. The military record speaks for itself: 183 consecutive days in combat. 6 months without relief. Through France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, and Austria. They destroyed 461 enemy vehicles. Captured 331 towns and villages. Took more than 15,000 German prisoners. But the statistics don't tell the real story. Tillet, Belgium. January 3, 1945. Temperature, -10 degrees Fahrenheit, heavy snow. The town of Tillet was a frozen hell. German forces had occupied it during the Battle of the Bulge, and now American and British forces were desperately trying to push them back. The 761st was ordered to support an infantry assault to retake the town. Drop a comment below. What's the most inspiring military story you've ever heard? Let's honor these heroes together. Prophet Williams had been fighting for 2 months straight. His hands were perpetually cold, his body exhausted, his mind numb from constant combat. But when the order came, he climbed into his tank. The assault on Tillet was supposed to be a coordinated attack with white tank units supporting from the flanks. But as the 761st advanced through the snow, they realized something terrible: the supporting units hadn't moved. Whether from communication failure, tactical disagreement, or something worse, the Black Panthers were advancing alone, directly into prepared German defenses. "Command, this is Black Panther 6. We're taking heavy fire and have no flank support. Request immediate assistance or permission to withdraw." Sam's radio call was calm, but everyone in the tank could hear the desperation underneath. The radio crackled with static. Then, "Black Panther 6, continue mission. Support is en route." It was a lie, and everyone knew it. Sam had a choice: retreat and be accused of cowardice, or advance into a potential slaughter. He looked at his crew: Prophet at the gun, Ghost driving, Private Jackson loading shells, and Corporal Williams manning the bow machine gun. These were his brothers. "We're not giving them the satisfaction," Sam said quietly. "We came here to prove something. Today, we prove it." The Sherman lurched forward through the snow. What happened over the next 6 hours would become legendary, though it would take decades before the full story was acknowledged. The 761st, without support, attacked German positions in Tillet. They fought house to house, tank to tank, in sub-zero temperatures with frostbite claiming almost as many casualties as German shells. Prophet's tank was hit 3 times. The first shell struck the front glacis plate, failing to penetrate but sending a shower of molten metal fragments through the driver's viewport. Ghost screamed but kept driving, half-blind and bleeding. The second shell destroyed their left track. The tank ground to a halt, immobilized in the middle of the street. "We are sitting ducks," Jackson shouted. "Then we become a pillbox," Sam ordered. "If we can't move, we'll fight from here. Keep firing." Prophet traversed the turret, acquiring target after target. German infantry trying to flank them, cut down by the coaxial machine gun. A Panzer IV tank emerging from a side street, destroyed with a perfectly placed shot to its thin side armor. A sniper in a church tower, silenced with a high explosive shell. For 3 hours, Sam's immobilized tank held the center of Tillet, allowing other 761st tanks to maneuver around German positions. When mechanics finally reached them to repair the track, they'd expended every shell and were down to their last belt of machine gun ammunition. But they'd held. By nightfall, Tillet was in American hands. The 761st had accomplished the mission that supporting units had failed to attempt. The cost was staggering. The battalion lost 24 men killed, 88 wounded, the highest single-day casualties they'd suffered. Every tank had damage. Some were total losses. That night, a white infantry captain approached Sam Washington. The captain's face was ashamed. "Lieutenant, I just wanted to say what your men did today." He struggled for words. "I've been fighting since North Africa. I've never seen courage like that. Never. I'm sorry we weren't there to support you." Sam was too exhausted for anger. "Just remember what you saw today, Captain. Remember it when someone tells you black men can't fight." "I'll remember," the captain promised. "Everyone will remember." Gunskirchen, Austria. May 5, 1945. Temperature, 62 degrees Fahrenheit, clear. The war was ending. Everyone could feel it. German resistance was collapsing. Hitler was dead. Victory was days away. But one more mission remained, one that would haunt the men of the 761st for the rest of their lives. Intelligence reported a concentration camp near the town of Gunskirchen. The 761st was ordered to investigate. As Prophet's tank rolled through the forest toward the camp, a smell hit them, death and suffering concentrated into a physical presence. Then they saw the fence, the watchtowers, the barracks, and the prisoners. If this story is opening your eyes to history you never knew, make sure you're subscribed. There's so much more to discover. Thousands of skeletal figures in striped uniforms emerged from the barracks, staring at the American tanks with hollow eyes. Many were too weak to stand. Some collapsed in the mud, weeping. Others just stared, as if unable to believe liberation had finally come. These were Jews, political prisoners, Roma, homosexuals, disabled people, everyone the Nazis had marked for extermination. The Gunskirchen concentration camp was a subcamp of Mauthausen, and the prisoners had been marched here on a death march when the main camp was threatened. Sam Washington climbed out of his tank and walked into the camp. The reality of what he was seeing, what humanity was capable of, broke something inside him. A prisoner approached, so thin his bones were visible through his skin. He spoke in broken English. "You are American?" "Yes," Sam managed to say. "You're free. You're safe now." The man looked at Sam's face, his dark skin, and tears began streaming down his face. "You are, like me. They hate you too, yes?" Sam didn't know how to answer. How could he explain that? Yes, he faced discrimination in America, but nothing like this industrial murder. "We're going to help you," Sam said simply. "All of you." The 761st Tank Battalion spent the next 3 days at Gunskirchen, providing security, distributing rations, and helping medical teams treat the survivors. They gave their own food to starving prisoners. They shared their tents and blankets. They buried the dead with dignity. Private Jackson, a quiet kid from New Orleans who rarely spoke, found Sam late one night, tears streaming down his face. "Lieutenant, I thought I understood evil. Growing up in Louisiana, I saw men lynched. I saw churches burned. I thought I knew hatred." His voice broke. "But this is something else. How do people do this to each other?" Sam had no answer. He could only remember the words from Genesis 4 verse 10, when God confronted Cain after he murdered Abel. "What have you done? Listen. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." The blood of 6 million Jews, 500,000 Roma, countless others, crying out from the ground of Europe. "We bear witness," Sam finally said. "We tell the world what we saw. We make sure this is never forgotten." The survivors of Gunskirchen never forgot the black soldiers who liberated them. In later years, many would testify that seeing black American soldiers, men who faced discrimination in their own country but still fought for freedom, gave them hope that humanity could overcome hatred. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered. The war in Europe was over. The 761st Tank Battalion had fought for 183 consecutive days. They'd liberated 30 towns. They'd fought through 6 countries. They'd earned 3 Silver Stars, 11 Bronze Stars, and 69 Purple Hearts. But when they returned to America, they found a country largely unchanged. They'd proven their courage on the battlefield, but segregation remained. Jim Crow was still law throughout the South. Black veterans who tried to register to vote were beaten or killed. Prophet Williams returned to Birmingham and was refused service at a restaurant, while wearing his uniform with combat decorations. Ghost Turner was beaten by police in Mississippi for not knowing his place. Sam Washington applied for dozens of jobs and was rejected from all of them. They'd fought for freedom abroad, only to be denied it at home. But they didn't give up. These veterans became leaders in the civil rights movement. They'd faced down Nazi tanks, they weren't afraid of segregationist politicians. They'd liberated concentration camps, they understood the stakes of fighting injustice. Sam Washington became a teacher, educating a generation of young black students about their history and potential. Prophet Williams worked with the NAACP, using his engineering skills to help black communities build infrastructure. Ghost Turner became a minister, preaching a gospel of justice and equality. And slowly, painfully slowly, the world they'd fought for began to emerge. Washington, D.C. The White House. Samuel Washington was 79 years old when he finally received the phone call. The Secretary of the Army wanted to inform him personally. The 761st Tank Battalion was being awarded the Presidential Unit Citation for the extraordinary heroism and outstanding performance of duty in action. It had taken 52 years. But the recognition had come. At the ceremony, Sam stood alongside the surviving members of the 761st, old men now, but still carrying themselves with military bearing. President Bill Clinton presented the citation, acknowledging what should have been obvious decades earlier. The 761st Tank Battalion embodied the finest traditions of military service. Against discrimination at home and tyranny abroad, they proved that courage and excellence know no color. After the ceremony, a young black Army officer, a captain in command of a modern tank company, approached Sam with tears in his eyes. "Sir, I wanted to thank you. I command tanks today because of what you did. My daughter dreams of being a pilot because of the doors you opened. We stand on your shoulders." Sam looked at the young officer, seeing in him the future they'd fought for. "You don't owe us thanks, Captain. You owe us your best service. Be excellent. Be courageous. And when someone tells you that you can't do something because of the color of your skin, prove them wrong. Just like we did." The captain saluted. Sam returned it. Outside, Washington, D.C. went about its business. But for a moment, in that room, history and the present touched. The sacrifices of the past had created possibilities for the future. The 761st Tank Battalion, the Black Panthers, had proven that excellence transcends prejudice, that courage overcomes discrimination, and that justice, though delayed, will ultimately prevail. Their legacy lives on in every black soldier who serves, every person of color who pursues their dreams, and every American who believes that we are measured by our character and our actions, not by the color of our skin. Drop a comment below with the name of an unsung hero from your community or family. Let's make sure their stories are told too. And subscribe for more incredible forgotten histories that deserve to be remembered. The 761st Tank Battalion was a real unit that served with extraordinary distinction in World War II. This narrative is based on their documented service record, though specific dialogue and some character perspectives are dramatized for storytelling purposes. The unit's 183 consecutive days in combat, their role in liberating concentration camps, and their return to a still segregated America are all historical facts. In 1978, President Jimmy Carter finally awarded the Presidential Unit Citation to the 761st. Individual members, including Staff Sergeant Reuben Rivers, posthumously received the Medal of Honor in later decades as their service was properly recognized. The 761ST's motto was, "Come out fighting." They did, and they never stopped fighting for justice, equality, and recognition.